G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. Today we're excited to say we have a new epic reef to show you. We have Wild Reef behind us. It's a 2,000 litre mega reef. It's absolutely awesome. We're going to show you exactly why this tank works so well. So this is Wild Reef and it is absolutely massive. It's a 2,000 litre tank which is 2.4 metres long by 80 centimetres wide by 80 centimetres high. It absolutely dominates this room and it looks so good. We're going to first of all talk about the fish and corals in this tank, and there are heaps of them. So let's have a look at the corals through Wild Reef. So I really want to point out some of the corals in this tank that are doing absolutely amazing. And on the left-hand side here, we've got this excellent Euphilia garden. We've got hammers, which are doing really, really well. And amongst the hammers, we've got this massive clam. And as a lot of you might know, I absolutely love my clams. And this one looks awesome in the way it's positioned, perched up there. On this next bommy, we've got these Alveoporas, and they look excellent. There's a really good variety of color, and just below that there's this really cool Recordia which is doing excellent. In this middle bommy we have these gonnies which the clowns look like they're hosting to, hence that one gonnie is a little bit closed up. We've got an awesome bird's nest which is positioned beautifully. You can see how it's actually been glued onto the vertical side of that rock piece, and it's grown out towards the light, looking really, really good. We've also got two huge desh. They're particularly nice and colourful, and you can see they're really enjoying the flow. And even without any sand around their base, they look absolutely awesome. Their tentacles are out looking for some food. Up here we have one of the biggest Monty colonies you'll see. It's red scrolling Monty, and it's really sort of taken over that rock. And I've noticed in particular with this colony, the way it's growing is quite unique. It's really ruffled, and I'm wondering if it's the light and the flow which is causing that color and texture. We have another clam. Again, one of my favorites. This is a really cool clam. It's absolutely huge. It's the size of a football. The way it's tilting forwards, you can kind of see the color. It's really, really nice. And over here, we've got some Duncans, acans, and some soft corals. So there's a really good makeup of corals in this mixed reef tank, and they're all doing absolutely amazing. So now let's talk about the fish in this tank. I absolutely love the makeup of the fish in this tank, and I'm just going to put a bit of food in to show you how good they look when they're feeding. The tank's kind of dominated by these tangs. We've got the big ringtail who looks absolutely awesome in there, but interestingly there are 3 sailfin tangs. So 1, 2, 3. And I find it interesting because often we don't put multiple sailfin tangs in a tank because we're worried they're not going to get along. This is a massive tank, so it's probably the reason why they are getting along so well. We've also got the blue tangs. There's a school of lyre-tail anthias, which I think look excellent. You can see there's a single male here. He's starting to get that deep sort of purpley, burgundy sort of colour. He's got that extension on the top. He's awesome. There's a really nice powder blue. And when I say nice, he's a beautiful looking fish, but he's being a little bit aggressive towards a gold rim tang, which has recently gone in the tank. He's really having a tough time at the moment. But apart from the gold rim, every fish in the tank just looks excellent. There's a purple tang here. We've got a few other tangs, rabbit fish. And in fact, there's at least 3 rabbit fish in this tank. But they look amazing, and they certainly love their food. So let's talk about the equipment on Wild Reef. So we'll look at the equipment that runs on Wild Reef up the top before we look underneath the tank. So the first thing you'll notice, of course, are the lights. And it's quite an interesting light setup. It's all Kessels. So we have 3 of the AP9X in the middle. They've got the twin pucks. And there are 2 of the Kessels 360x either side of the 9x. And the life of such a big tank is really, really good. You can see there's coral growth all the way to the back and the front. And when you can have a clam growing so well on the bottom of a tank, you know you've got good light penetration. And these Kessels are doing a great job. The wave makers are 3 of the Ecotech MP40s. We've got 1 down this end and 2 down the other end. And so being such a big reef, it's interesting to see the position of them and how well they are moving the water. You can really see, especially now we've just put some food in, that the water movement is excellent, and these 3 MP40s are doing a great job. So now we'll take you under the tank and we'll look at the filtration of Wild Reef. So Wild Reef has got 3 drains from the tank that feed into the sump. Out of those 3 drains, 1 is an emergency and the other 2 feed into the back here, one of which goes into the Clarisea filter roller. The other one is just going straight down into the sump, and the water from both the drains then moves into this skimmer section. So you can see we've got a huge bubble magnus and it's being run fairly wet. The bubbles are really right at the top of the cup, and so they're skimming, creating this dilute skimmate. And wet skimming is a trick that some people will use in certain situations just to get the best out of their filtration. So the water moves from the skimmer section into the refugium, and it's effectively a tumbling ball of keto underneath another Kessel's light. From there, the water moves into this section, and this is pretty cool. It's sort of like a bonus little zoa garden area. I guess this is somewhere that you can keep frags and grow out zoas. They're all doing really well, which is interesting because it's really just sort of the side light from the Kessels here. The water then moves into this section. We've got a reactor which is running carbon and GFO, and then into the back, which there's 2 great white return pumps feeding the water back up into the tank. Now we've also got another section too underneath the tank here on the right hand side. So let's have a quick look at that. So to the right of the sump, we have this section here in which we have the Apex system. Now the Apex is running 2 DOS, so 4 heads, and one of the interesting things about this system is exactly what is being dosed into the tank. So we have calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, 3 that you'd expect, but interestingly there's also kalkwasser, and the kalkwasser is something that people often like to use to help to elevate the pH, but what I found most interesting is the amount of kalkwasser going into Wild Reef, and it's actually 15 litres per day. So in other words, every 4 days, 60 litres of kalkwasser is mixed up, put on in a large vessel, and is being dosed into Wild Reef. I really thought that was quite interesting. We've also got some vodka which is being dosed manually to help with the nitrate. So along with the calcium, KH, magnesium and kalkwasser that's being dosed into the tank, this tank also has a range of coral essentials manually dosed in. Now the Coral Essentials Trace ABC goes in at the rate of 40 drops per day, and there's also strontium, potassium, Ki3 and manganese. The manganese is something that is particularly popular for gonnies, and you can see with the polyp extension and how well these ones are doing that it's definitely helping. So let's talk about the rock structure, because in such a big tank it is a really beautiful aquascape. So I absolutely love this aquascape. It's a really dynamic aquascape. There's lots of caves, and I'm constantly seeing fish come up through out of the caves, and it's probably one of the reasons why so many big tanks are getting along. There's lots of places for them to hide, and it's a really aesthetically pleasing aquascape. Now, the bulk of this aquascape is actually made up of the Carib Sea trees, which is a really good trick for big tanks to create big structures. And we've got a number of these trees. There's one here, another over here, another one over there. And they're also linked together with pieces of Marco, which were in an existing tank previously. And there's lots of coralline on them, so you can't actually tell the difference between the Marco and the Carib Sea. But it's a really nice structure, and it's certainly providing the perfect sort of positions for all the corals in Wild Reef. Let's talk about the food that's being fed to Wild Reef, because it's quite interesting the different things which are being fed for the corals as well as the other creatures like the clams. Now, the first thing that they're getting is the Coral Essentials Coral Power food. And it's a particularly good powdered food that has zooplankton and phytoplankton. And when you have a mixed reef like Wild Reef, it's really good to feed a variety of things. So the coral power food is excellent for this purpose. And for example, the clams particularly like phytoplankton, whereas some of the other corals like the acans, Duncans, things like that, are going to appreciate the zooplankton makeup of the coral power food. Another thing which is being fed into Wild Reef is live phytoplankton. So the phytoplankton is actually cultured on site and it's fed to the tank at night time. Now this is a trick which I think is a particularly good one, feeding phytoplankton or other coral foods at the same time each day, but particularly in the evening. It really gets the corals and other things like the clams into a habit and a rhythm. And providing a rhythm to your reef is one of the best things you can do for the continued health of your ecosystem. So I absolutely love this. This is the dosing supplement vessel. It's a 60 litre, no, it's bigger, it's got to be bigger than that, 100 litres. It's a 100 litre dosing vessel. So this is what the kalkwasser is mixed up and put into. And like we were saying before, 15 litres a day. You'd want to have a big vessel to hold that much supplement. But this is pretty cool as well. We've got a Tico, I'm guessing it's a 2000, yes it is, TK 2000, and it's actually exhausting outside. Of course, whenever you've got a chiller, it's always best to exhaust the hot air out of the room that the tank is in. Otherwise, it's sucking in its own hot air. And this system for exhausting the hot air outside is pretty brilliant. I really hope that this video accurately depicts the size and the scale of Wild Reef. It just looks absolutely amazing in this room, and I think that's what I like most about it. The fact that we've got this massive tank that God knows how it got into this house, and it just looks amazing with the perfect little table with comfy chairs to sit and watch, drink your coffee and watch the ecosystem behind you. And it is an absolutely thriving ecosystem. The fish and corals look amazing. Everything just looks really healthy and you can tell it's all growing. So we'll bring you back to Wild Reef in future episodes of Gallery Aquatica TV. That's our video for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing. That's it for this week's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Don't forget to like and comment on all our videos and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned to Gallery Aquatica TV for more exciting episodes to come. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing!